Hello, and welcome to Real Talk with Rachel. Today I'm examining the question, would we be doing this to a man? I'm researching a book about publishing in 1900. Some select women were getting published by 1900, and they were using their own names. Many women continued to use male pseudonyms for one reason or another. One of those reasons was that there were a lot of things women weren't supposed to write about. Here's a condensed list and the historical reason for it. Science fiction and fantasy. It required scientific knowledge, and women weren't interested in that, nor were their brains made for it. Crime and detective fiction. It was way too violent for the feminine psyche, and it also required logic. Women don't have logic. Political and satirical writing. Critiquing society and religion? That wasn't a woman's place. It was a realm belonging to men because they were much more informed. Adventure and travel writing. If women were doing their jobs, being a wife and mother, they didn't have time to travel. Horror fiction. Again, the violence and grotesque nature of horror was considered inappropriate for a woman's mind to dwell on. Never mind that they knew horror in their everyday lives. Literary fiction with serious themes. There was no reason specifically given for this, but one can surmise. Men thought they were the better writers. Women were supposed to focus on romance and domestic or sentimental stories. Stories written for other women. Stories not meant to change much of anything. Women faced outraged backlash if they wrote outside these lines. When Kate Chopin published The Awakening in 1900, her work was deemed immoral, inappropriate, poisonous to society. Louisa May Alcott, the author of Little Women, wrote Gothic thrillers under a man's name, A.M. Barnard. Many of these women in history found more acceptance and success writing under a pen name, initials, or a man's name. We don't face quite the same level of discrimination today, but it does still exist. I found hints of it when reading the reviews of a book I recently finished. Sociopath, a memoir written by Patrick Gagne, had lots of reviews. So many of the reviewers questioned her credentials. They said she had fake credentials. She has a PhD in clinical psychology from the California Graduate Institute of the Chicago School. What are her credentials? People kept asking. Are they fake? Who even is she? Now, I will note here that the most recent edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM-5-TR, got rid of the sociopath diagnosis and now lists it under the umbrella of antisocial personality disorder. Gagne asserts that she identifies more with the diagnostic criteria for a sociopath than for an individual with APD. So, yes, there's some controversy over her rejection of the APD diagnosis. But so many questioned her credentials, and I couldn't help but ask, would we be doing this to a man? Had a man written and asserted that he identified more with the thoughts and feelings of a sociopath than with the actions of an individual with APD, would we be questioning his credentials? No, I don't think we would. There's something called inherent biases that lie latent in our brains. Growing up in a patriarchal society, we absorb them, not on purpose, but because they're everywhere. Research shows that women have to work harder to prove they're as qualified as a man in the same job. They have to do other things, be likable, in addition to proving their competence. Gagne probably isn't concerned with likability, and so her competence comes into question. I see this all the time in the book world. Women still write under men's names because there are still genres that are, if not closed off, at least not quite as acceptable to women. I publish my books for young people under my initials because back when I first published, reports said boys wouldn't pick up books written by women, and I wanted everyone to read my books. And things have gotten marginally better over the years. They've progressed a little, but not enough. 3 years ago, which is not nearly long enough ago in my opinion, The Guardian published a piece that shared the most recent research about readers. Men make up only 19% of readers for the top 10 best-selling female authors. Women make up the other 81%. For the top 10 best-selling male authors, men make up 55% of their readers, women 45%. Men still aren't reading women, but women are reading men. So you see, initials can make things a little more fair. As a writer, this can be frustrating and a little disheartening. I write a lot of feminist fiction, okay, but you know what? Men and boys need to read it because, as I've said, these biases still exist. And if we don't examine them, they'll remain. They're too ingrained to go away without some hard work, necessary work. So what can we do? Maybe pick up a book by a woman. Maybe don't question her credentials or why there's no sentimental, feel-good fairy tale ending, or why there's violence, or why she made any of the decisions she made. Maybe believe what she says or trust she knows what she's doing. Maybe let her write her magnificent stories. There are 100 other ways we can apply this question, would we be doing this to a man, in our everyday lives. Educational settings, workplace settings, domestic violence and sexual assault and harassment trials, presidential races. Would we be doing this to a man? Too often, our answer would be no. And the question itself, I think, is a good place to start. Thanks for listening to my Real Talk. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for videos about books and writing and more videos like this. And sign up for my newsletter at racheltolson.com for inspiration, book recommendations, news, and writing prompts. Stay strong, and see you next time.